Like no beginning, no end. It's the God of in your Bible. The Tawheed is in your Bible.
It's not. Unfortunately, it's not quite. I can show you why it's not.
No images.
Yeah,
Isn't that in the Bible?
But there's many gods that don't believe in idols or images,
right?
God.
Huh? There is one God. There is one truly worshipped, Allah.
I would agree that there's one God, but I don't think it's Allah.
Even the word God, we say Allah, not God, because the word God, you can have a plural of it. You can have God of gods. It's not the most. Allah is a protected word.
It just means the God or the deity or whatever.
It means the only deity worshipped in truth.
I don't think that's what it means.
That is what it means.
I don't. Can you pull up Arabic dictionary?
Allah,
that's what it means.
The word Allah means the only ilah worshipped in truth. The only one that is worshipped in truth.
Where's the truth word in Allah?
Allah, the word Allah, it comes from al-ilah. The word ilah means
the God.
No, not just God. The word God isn't. Arabic is not like English. God is a very, like for you guys, the way that your priests or your teachers or the church might tell you that Jesus is God, because you've been brainwashed to use the word God so loosely. Before that, paganism, God of the sky, God of this, God of that. Christians in the Bible, you read so much about this Tawheed in the Bible, in the Old Testament, so much about Tawheed. I read only a small bit from Isaiah, and I saw stuff that even confirmed, Islam confirms.
Where do you think Islam gets it from? It's all from the Bible.
From Allah.
No, from the Bible.
The Bible was from who? Originally, the Injil was from who?
Okay, so
Allah.
So you've done two things here.
What?
You've said the Bible, and you've said the Injil. These are two slightly different things.
Okay,
so for us, the Injil is inside the Bible,
the issue,
but it's not quite the same thing.
The issue comes from using English, which is not
no, because the issue comes from this. When you talk about the Bible, you're talking about a combination of the Old and New Testaments,
and
right?
a lot of other books.
Just the Old and New Testament. That's all it is. So everything from Genesis to Malachi, everything from Genesis to Malachi is the Old Testament, and then everything onwards from Matthew's Revelation is the New.
Okay,
right?
you know when you read it.
So wait a second. You made a bunch of points, right? Let me address them, right? You said you saw Tawheed in the Old Testament. Where do you think the idea comes from? It comes from the Old Testament.
It comes from the one who sent the Old Testament.
Right, but there is nowhere where Allah said that He sent Ezekiel.
What do you mean?
So you say you read Ezekiel, right? But how do you know Allah?
I read Isaiah.
Sorry, Isaiah. Yeah. How do you know Allah sent Isaiah? How do you know this? You have no idea of a way of confirming it.
I know that that message, it like for example, if you read the Quran, you're sincere, you're going to see things that are very similar to what you see when you read the Bible.
Because it took this from the Bible, that's why.
So Prophet Muhammad ﷺ read the Bible.
So he didn't read the Bible. I wouldn't say so. The reason is there's nothing that I see in the Quran that perfectly has continuity with something from the Bible. What I would say happened is he heard people saying things and incorporated them into a religion.
Do you know that is what the disbelievers at the time Prophet Muhammad said?
Well, it was very apparent to them that's what he was doing.
Okay, then why were there Christians who converted and accepted the message of Islam, or who when they saw Muhammad they believed him to be a prophet?
There were very few of them, and the majority said no. So again, you can find someone called a Christian who will convert to anything, but the true believers wouldn't.
So you're saying that the Christian converts to Islam aren't true believers?
Yes.
Okay, I will tell you that the Christians converts to Islam, all they did, they saw a prophet whose speech confirmed what they were taught by their priests, and they were waiting for a prophet.
So no, they weren't, because Jesus Christ didn't tell us to wait for prophets. So if they were Christians and they believed in Jesus, they wouldn't be waiting for anybody.
The Christians,
you need to prove that, and you can't, because you don't have it, right?
The Christians that witnessed Muhammad,
yes,
weren't following the books and the Bible that is read today.
Then they were heretics.
No, because they weren't reading English Bible.
Okay, so don't forget that from the very first century, yeah, but that's fine. Paul went to Arabia. From the very first century, the gospel has been in Arabia. That's fine.
Not in English. Not what you have today.
Yes, not in English. English is a new language, right? Yeah. But again, the Bible is literally in about 3,000 languages, right? From the very first century, it was absolutely fine to have it translated in Coptic, in Amharic, in Latin, in Greek. It was all good from the very first century. So effectively, whatever they had back then, if there was truly Christians who somehow had a gospel where they were expecting another prophet after Jesus Christ, then they were heretics. So they were even real Christians.
Did Jesus Christ say that he's the final prophet?
So Hebrews 1 verse I think Hebrews 1:1 and 1:2 says the following: that in the old days God spoke to us through prophets, but in the final days he has spoken to us through his son. Within no, listen very carefully.
That's already
within Christian history, we understand that the last prophecy or revelation with God ended with the death of John the Apostle around 100 AD. So after John, there will be no more new prophets who will come and give revelation.
Okay, let's
which is why Mani from the 2nd century isn't a prophet. Anybody else who popped up claiming to be a disciple of Jesus or John isn't a prophet, and then Muhammad wouldn't count either.
Okay, so
can I just ask, if Muhammad copied the entirety of the Bible,
Did I say that?
Not the entirety. If he copied what he believed or the things that he revealed from the Bible, why didn't he just copy all of it?
Okay.
Why did he make so many contradictions?
If you copy the Bible, then you have to be subject to the Bible. If you take parts of it, you can legitimize yourself with those parts and then add your own rules and regulations that benefit you only.
okay,
How does praying 5 times a day benefit just him?
Okay, if you pray 5 times a day, then you don't really have much time to do a lot of other things. It's a way of keeping people in
Praying
check,
doesn't take that much time,
right?
sorry.
It's a way of keeping people in check and keeping them together and keeping them in uniform. If you go to the military, there are practices that you have to do every day multiple times. For example, changing your gun, reloading it, and so on. Why do it? Because with repetition and practice, you can keep people online.
Okay, he wasn't a ruler.
Yes, he was.
He only became a ruler after being persecuted in Mecca for
Okay,
years.
so you said he wasn't a ruler. I said he was, and you said he only became one later. So what? He was still a ruler.
Okay, why did he come up with that ruler then? Why didn't he come up with the ruler after he became a ruler?
Have you looked at? Let me give you a very brief history of Muhammad's life, right?
Yeah.
So 610 is when he gets revelation. When he's 40 years old, he spends 12 years in Mecca preaching, and then no one's feeling him, and then ultimately he leaves to go to Medina. But he only leaves with 150 followers, no more than that. Now, when he returns with an army, suddenly then he gets more followers, right?
No, I need to update
So
that history.
it's very clear that when he was not using force, no one was buying it. And when he started using force, then everyone started
I
buying
have
it.
a question. Can I ask something?
we can't vote.
Are you saying the Prophet ﷺ wanted power? He just wanted to be a ruler. Okay. The leaders of Mecca offered him a leadership position in the tribe to stop him.
Okay.
Why did he continue preaching?
Because he knew he'd get more.
Why would he endure all of that?
To get more?
How do you know that?
Like there's so many people in history.
Why did he send the Muslims off to Aksum and Yathrib before himself? He only left the night that they sent the assassins for.
What does that mean?
Listen, why would he be so selfless? If he was just desiring power and nothing else,
Yes.
why would he act so selfless?
Oh, okay, sure thing. So in order for you, particularly as a cult leader, to keep your cult going, your members need to be safe. So send them away so that in case anything happens to you, they can carry things on.
What stopped him from just saying he's God? Or saying he's the son of God? What stopped him from saying he's another iteration of Jesus?
Because then all he would be doing is already mimicking everything that's already happened before around him. So if you're, for example, if you're in a place where people have like random beliefs, they believe in like wind spirits, sand spirits, whatever might have you, right? It's easier to centralize things under the belief of a singular deity, and then through the enforcement of a power, military power, you can then exalt that deity above all the other ones, which is what he did when he came back and controlled all the items of the Kaaba.
You didn't answer to me.
I did.
How is that an answer? You just explained to me how it's easy for them to do one single deity.
Yes.
You as Christians claim that it's still a single deity despite God having a son. So if he claimed himself to be a son, why would that not be a single deity?
Because
why is it in this case not a single deity?
Again, he could have done a number of things, I would say, but he chose to go the route of proclaiming that he was the final messenger of an already very well long and established religion that already existed before him. So he legitimized himself by latching on to Christianity and then Judaism, and then let it go.
No, sorry. Can I interrupt that? Christianity is a religion that is based upon worshipping Jesus.
Before Muhammad was born, how many hundred years of Christianity did you have before he was born?
Was Ibrahim a Christian?
Sorry?
Was Ibrahim a Christian?
Well, yes, he was.
Ibrahim was a
Yes.
Christian. No, he wasn't.
He was.
That's
Here's
a lie.
why. Here's why.
Was Ibrahim a
Later in the New Testament, we find out two things. One of them is that Jesus tells us that Abraham was glad to see his day, meaning that in Genesis 15, when God came to Abraham, God showed him the gospel. And then even later in the New Testament, it says that the gospel was preached to Abraham. So when God came to Abraham in the Old Testament, he showed him what would come.
Okay, why didn't he just claim that?
Sorry?
Okay, do you believe Abraham was a prophet?
Yes.
Okay, if he was a prophet meant to send the message and he was shown the gospel,
no,
why not just say
he wasn't a prophet meant to send a message. He was a prophet because he spoke to God and he saw the future. So he taught.
He had prophecies.
Huh?
Okay, so okay.
He got shown prophecies by God, right? Now he wasn't a prophet because he was sent anywhere to go and preach something. Because he did, yes, convert the people who were in his camp and in his household, but he wasn't sent somewhere. They were already with him.
Okay, I have a question. What is the point of him being sent out, or not being sent? What's the point of him even being chosen by God in the first place?
So the Bible, it's not like he did nothing. God tells, so one thing, we have to know that the Bible says that God can see the beginning from the end, right? So God has complete awareness of all events that will happen in his creation, from the very advent of creation to the very end. He does. But then, because God knows that and he's perfect, we can assume safely that any action that God performs in the world is leading towards an ultimate purpose. And for us in Christianity, that involves as many people as possible hearing the gospel and then coming to him of their own free will, right? So, because of that, why did he choose Abraham? Essentially, you have to accept the idea that because the Bible says that God looked on the earth and saw no one more righteous than Abraham, despite him being a flawed man who would lie and sin, God saw that through him, he would have the tribes of Israel, and then through the tribes of Israel, you would then have Christianity coming out of that, and then from there to the rest of the world, and then as many people as possible through that could become Christians. That's why. Wait, before you ask me that, did you understand what I just said at all?
I do understand.
God sees everything. God sees everything, right? So when he chose Abraham, he knew that Abraham would have Isaac, Isaac would have Jacob, Jacob would have 12 sons, the 12 tribes would grow in number, they would settle in Jerusalem, they would leave him and come back to him multiple times until the prophets that was promised came.
I thought the 12 tribes were created because of when Moses struck the rock in 12 rivers.
No, so Moses descends from one of the 12 tribes already. He's from the tribe of Levi. So way before Moses, there were already 12 tribes.
No, but didn't you just say, hold on, was Moses before Abraham?
No, it was after Abraham.
After, what's his name? After
Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, 12 tribes.
What about Ismail?
Okay, when was Moses? Before Jacob or after Jacob?
After, because Moses is from the tribe of Levi. Okay. So he descends. So
then what was the significance of him striking the rock in 12 rivers which spawned the 12 tribes? What was that?
Oh no, they didn't spawn the 12 tribes, they represented them, that's all. The 12 tribes were already there.
Represented?
Yes.
Like an allegory? Like an allegory?
Like an allegory, like a parable, like symbolism, yes.
Okay.
No, I can't buy it. I can't point it. Abraham didn't lie, and none of the prophets.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't. And
even in your Quran it says so.
It did not say that he's a liar. No,
yeah, it does.
No, it didn't.
In the Quran, it talks about David desiring a woman over what God told him to do. This is in Surah 38. It talks about Abraham lying. It talks about Jonah not listening to him. It talks about Adam actually committing shirk. And then there's one other prophet. Essentially, with Adam, so here's the funny thing with Adam, right? If you go and read the Surah, what happens is the devil comes to Adam and he promises him an eternal kingdom, right? Now, who is the only person who has an eternal kingdom? Allah. So by Moses accepting, by Adam accepting his offer, Adam wanted to be like Allah.
No,
so he committed shirk.
No, he didn't. Okay. He didn't. He didn't commit shirk.
No.
So that's shirk.
No,
that's shirk.
But that's not. He didn't commit shirk.
That's shirk.
Okay.
I mean, that wouldn't be shirk. It's a sin.
It's not shirk.
It would be because. So,
you can't listen to what he's telling
for example,
lie and it has corrupted the message.
Islam is a lie. No, not Christianity. Islam is a lie. Islam as a whole is a lie.
Islam is the religion of Ibrahim.
It's not because Abraham never believed in Allah.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
So you see, here's the problem, right?
Okay.
You say Ibrahim believed in one God, therefore it was Allah. But Satanists believe in one God. Is that for Allah too?
No. Allah is not a God.
No,
Allah is not a God. Allah is the one true God.
So is Ahura Mazda.
No, it isn't. Okay,
right?
let me tell you. in order to respond to me right now, you are doing something that even Christians don't believe. I'll tell you why. Where we agree on. Well, in the part of the Bible that I read, and even what you said earlier about
well, you need to read more.
Okay, you as a Christian. Okay, let me just try to speak a bit slowly.
Okay, fine. Let me let you do your thing.
You as a Christian, right? If you go to let's say a tribe somewhere that hasn't heard any messages from God, right? And you see them worshipping stones and statues and spirits and their ancestors, okay? You wouldn't follow that. Because you believe in following God and God's message and not following statues and not following stones and not following ancestors. Alright, we agree on that, yeah?
Why'd you run to him for, bro?
Sorry, my dude. Is there a reason that you're... No, wait, okay, one second.
Can I finish the point to you really quick?
Sure thing.
Okay.
We can come here, I guess.
If you saw them worshipping statues and stones and their ancestors, you would say, no, worship God. Obviously, you believe that Jesus is God, which I don't agree with. But you say worship God, worship a God, or worship a Almighty, or something that is not a stone, not a statue, not your ancestors. Follow the books, at least. The Bible, you'll bring them a book, the Bible. I do believe it's been changed, but originally there was God's words in it, right? So,
well, you can't prove
this is what you would bring to them, right? That is what you'd bring. You wouldn't follow.
I would tell them to follow Christ.
Okay, that part you'd be misguiding them. I'll tell you why you'd be misguiding them. I'll tell you why you'd be misguiding them.
I can tell you why not.
You are replacing, so they're doing a form of paganism.
Okay.
You're replacing their paganism with another form of paganism.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. You're telling them to worship that God. You're telling them that God, your creator, has a son, and the only way for you to get close to him is by that son. The pagans, what they tell their followers is that we are unclean and we can't reach God except through worshipping these graves of pious people or these statues of pious people that were close to God. You basically do, but I'm not saying that's your fault. Christianity originally, Isa, he came with a message to worship Allah, and he came with worship against paganism, right? But afterwards, the church changed the message of Jesus into a Trinitarian message.
Ibn Kathir has lied to you. I've heard this before.
And essentially a pagan
Nothing
message.
you say has any roots in history. Nothing. Zero of it.
Okay, was any of the idea of Trinity around at the time of Jesus?
Yes.
What's your proof for that? Because
in the Bible itself, you have Thomas, his disciple, worshiping him, and Christ accepts it, and he says, "Now you believe."
You've already heard the response to that, so I want to bring the response to argument, but I'll bring you back to the first thing.
No, again.
I'll bring you back to Tawheed.
You've spoken. Now it's my turn to raise your points.
Okay, yeah, take the points.
Okay. When you come to a people who don't know God, you have to tell them about Christ. The reason being, again, I'm talking now, okay? The reason being that you have no means of ever reaching God, assuming that God is perfect. Now, if God is imperfect, right, then absolutely, you can work up to him anything you want. But if God is perfect, in order for you to come to him, you also must be perfect. And if you cannot become perfect by your own deeds, then you need something that does the perfecting for you, and that person is Jesus Christ. That's fine.
Just focus on that.
Let's do that. So is Allah perfect?
Okay, Allah is perfect.
How can you come to him?
Okay, Allah in the Quran says, "Ud'uni astajib lakum." Call me, I'll respond to you. Okay, that's literally how you come to Allah. Now,
which is fine, but how can you be united with him?
What do you mean?
When you die, you believe that you will be united with Allah. Some believe that Allah will be in heaven or he won't be, blah, 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 right? However, if Allah is perfect and you are not perfect and you have not become perfect when you get resurrected, how can you go to him?
Okay, I'll tell you why that assumption is false. You're assuming that God demands perfection out of us.
Yes.
That's not true.
Then he's not perfect.
No, he doesn't need...
How can imperfection exist next to perfection?
I'll tell you why it's not true.
Again.
Please don't get distracted. Can I tell you why it's not true? God...
Six-Day War! I wasn't there in 1967 Israeli Arab War. Six-Day War, I wasn't there, but it's fucking, you take a mixtape.
Alright, don't get distracted.
I'm good.
I beg, aye.
Oh, is that...
That's the problem.
Bruh.
They understand that.
Bruh. Listen, man.
They understand that.
Like, they feel sensitive about that stuff, so if you do walk around with it, just be ready for them to like bother you and stuff.
I know how to beat them with
as long as you can handle yourself, then that's fine, okay? Yeah.
Alright, okay, let's focus on this. You believe in angels, right?
No, wait. We're talking about perfection.
Yeah, perfection, that's what. Okay. Angels are perfect. They don't disobey the command of Allah. Allah already has angels. Us as a creation, we were created from clay. We're created from the earth, from dust. We weren't made to be perfect. Allah already has a creation that's made to just worship Him. We're made to try as best as we can to worship Him, right? Using our own free will. Us sinning doesn't take us So this idea that when you sin, you're far away from God and you can't come close to God, this is a pagan idea.
What is sin?
Sin is you've made a mistake, you've committed an error, you've done a mistake upon yourself.
If I'm walking and I trip, I sinned.
What do you mean?
If I'm walking and I trip on a rock, I sinned, right?
No, what do you mean? No.
You said sin is a mistake, right?
Yeah.
What kind of mistake?
It's against yourself. It's doing a mistake against yourself because you're oppressing yourself.
So if I walk and I trip and I fall down and bust my teeth, I sinned?
Not necessarily, no. If you hit somebody, you sin. Let's stick with that. If you hit someone, you sin.
How is hitting somebody a mistake against myself?
Because you don't oppress God. In the Quran, you don't oppress God for anything. You only oppress yourself. Because God doesn't need our perfection or our worship at all. In Islam, God does not need our worship.
But it literally says in your Quran that I have not created man and jinn but to worship me.
Yeah, but he also,
so it literally says the opposite.
But he also says, إِن تَكْفُرُوا أَنْتُمْ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. Like if you and everybody on the earth disbelieve or are ungrateful, it does not affect the perfection of Allah. Allah is perfect with our worship or without our worship. Also the Prophet ﷺ taught, if all of you had the heart of the most pious man, that would not increase Allah's majesty at all. And so Allah is not in need of us. And if all of you had the heart of the most evil man, that would not decrease Allah's majesty at all. This is not different from the original message of Christianity. It's not a
You
message.
have no idea what the message of Christianity even was.
Because we have in the Quran that Isa said.
The Quran comes later and just messes around with stories.
Just coming later doesn't.
It is.
Just coming later.
If I came today, no, it's not false. However, you would never go with something that came later versus something that came before.
So why are you not a Jew?
Huh?
Why are you not a Jew?
Because Christianity grows out of Judaism.
It doesn't grow out of
Judaism. And ultimately, what ends up occurring is that Christianity completely understands everything that was in Judaism. But we simply say that the Jews were made to be a light to the Gentiles, as it says in the Old Testament. What that simply means is that from the Jews would come salvation. The Messiah, the Jewish Messiah, who would charge his followers, Jew and Gentile, to go around the world and tell them that they have no means of coming to God but through him.
But that idea, okay, listen, let's just evaluate the idea.
Tell me 5 pagan traditions that have that idea. Tell me 5 of them.
I'll tell you. Okay, priest worship. Where? Because priest worship says.
Which tradition?
Christians have priest worship. Some.
No, you told me that this is a pagan idea.
Yeah.
Find me 5 pagan cultures that did this. You can't.
Every pagan culture.
Really?
Almost. Don't they say
Did
worship?
the Zoroastrians do this?
Don't answer. The Zoroastrians worship fire. That's different.
No, they don't. They worship Ahura Mazda, who manifests as fire.
Okay.
Very similar to how Allah does in the Quran.
Don't pagan traditions say follow your ancestors or follow the.
Some say that, not all.
Yeah, but don't they say follow because they're more pious and it's that idea of we are not perfect, so we need to rely on another person or another.
Yes, God.
Pagans who worship statues and stones, they worship those statues because they believe themselves cannot be close to God. Perhaps this rock or this statue is close to God. Let's worship it. You're saying
I don't think it's accurate at all.
It's the same thing. Okay.
I don't think it's accurate at all.
Can I tell you why?
That's not accurate at all.
I'll tell you why another reason.
You need to go study some pagan cultures and actually understand why.
I'll give an example. As Muslims, we can pray in synagogues. We can't pray in churches. Why? And I've been to a couple churches, like as a tourist, like to see what is cathedrals and stuff. When you go into a cathedral, what do you see? You see pictures, you see statues,
not in every
graves.
single one.
In the older ones, in the main, of the big city.
So then go pray in a church that doesn't have any of those. How about that?
There are some that are.
Then go pray in them.
Okay, but most of them aren't. So, okay.
No, actually most of them are.
Okay. An idea, how you can tell it's similar to another idea if its followers are not similar things.
Okay.
Now,
so the pagans used to walk around the Kaaba, and now you guys do it. So therefore, that's pagan.
But the Kaaba had statues inside it. The Kaaba now doesn't have any of those. That's
because Muhammad got rid of them, but the practice was the same.
It's not, because they used to worship around idols.
Right, but they would walk around it still, like you guys do. So that entire practice is pagan.
It's not, because
it is, because beforehand it was pagan.
The Kaaba is free of idols.
Right, but you see, when the pagans do a practice, right, and then you copy the practice. You do, because you also walk around the Kaaba.
That's not the point. The point is that the Kaaba has no idolism in it.
So, because well, that's arguable, but also
argue it then.
okay. So if you believe, for example, God is the only thing that can grant you salvation. God is the only person that can take away your sins, right? No, God. God is the only person who can do those things. So now, if you have a belief that if you go to a certain location around the world and you walk around the rock and then you kiss the rock, that your sins are forgiven, that's idol worship.
Okay, so you're saying the rites of pilgrimage that are built upon the prophets such as Prophet Ibrahim.
Ibrahim never went there.
That rock is Maqam Ibrahim.
Yeah, but it wasn't made by him, it was made by pagans.
It wasn't made by
There's no evidence that this was made by him. So for example, remember how I told you that you had Abraham, then you had Isaac, and you had Jacob, right? And then you had the 12 tribes. None of them ever went there.
Ismail and Ibrahim built the Kaaba.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did, because Ibrahim was persecuted and exiled from his people, and he went to a
No, he
desert
wasn't.
land. This is history.
No, it's not.
It is.
No one agrees with that except for the Muslims.
That's not true.
That's not what happened with him.
That's not true.
He wasn't persecuted by his people.
He was.
He left it. So the Bible, in Genesis, it literally says this, right? A man shall leave his father and mother. He shall join to a woman, and the two shall become one flesh. Abraham left his father and mother when he joined with Sarah.
It's not, that's not, okay, Ibrahim's people, okay, what was the message of Ibrahim? Because you say Ibrahim was a Christian.
He did, yes.
Let's stick to this.
Yes.
Ibrahim left his people, why? Because his people were worshipping statues and stones.
Well, he actually destroyed the statues of his father's house.
So we agree on that story.
Well, he didn't get thrown in the fire.
Okay, but we agree on that story of they destroyed the statues.
Of his father's house.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, Ibrahim as a person who believes that he destroyed the statues, why? Because his people are worshipping and he set gods.
Yes, so he came to know the true
God. We won't say God, but we'll say, yeah, Allah.
He came to know the true God.
Now, today, Christianity that has manifested itself in relying on a sacrifice of another man and of making images of that man, is that a religion that is contradicting or affirming the religion that Ibrahim was upon?
Well, this man you talk about is the one Ibrahim saw, is the one Ibrahim was preached to about. So therefore, Ibrahim, yes, was completely agree with all of this.
Ibrahim never worshipped a man.
So you make the mistake of assuming that Christ is only a man. But if he is only a man, then the things that he says about himself in the gospel, such as things like he is the Son of Man, the one prophesied in Daniel 7, such as in Matthew 3:17, where he gets baptized, the clouds open up, and a voice from heaven says, "This is my Son, whom I am well pleased." Such as when he in John 16:15, where he said, "Everything that belongs to the Father belongs to me." If a singular man said those things, then he'd either be committing shirk or be trying to elevate himself to the point of a god.
Let's stick on this Son of God idea.
Yeah.
Okay, and see if this is a...
Because even the Quran,
stick on this idea.
even the Quran admits that if God had a son, you have to worship him.
But he doesn't have a son.
But he does.
He doesn't.
The Bible says he does, right? Christians since the very first century have believed he does. The apostles believe he does.
Okay.
Today in church we read Matthew 16:13, and in it Jesus Christ asked his disciples, "Who do they say I am?" They replied to him, "Some say you're John the Baptist, some say you're Elijah, some say you're that prophet." And then he says, "Who do you say I am?" Peter says to him, "You are the Son of the living God."
Okay, you believe in a God with a son. That's what you believe. Okay. Now, paganism.
Sorry, God with a son?
A God with a son. A God that has a son. That's
Yes,
what you believe.
yes.
Okay, you believe in a God that has a son. Now let's analyze paganism, right? Greek mythology, all of those types of pagan traditions. What do they believe in? Gods, demigods, gods, sons of gods, fathers of gods, Zeus and his children. This is not a godly thing. It's not a idea of a believer. A believer wouldn't believe in a God.
I don't agree with you.
Okay.
Right? Because when you look at Greek mythology, Zeus or Kronos or Uranus and all of the Olympian gods are all separate gods. They're simply humans with superpowers. That's all they are, right? They are not responsible for the creation of the world ex nihilo, right? However, when we come to Christianity, when we say words like Father and Son and Spirit, we're simply describing relations. When you hear the Son of God, you think, I mean, in the Quran, it even says this, right? Like, Allah cannot have a son because he doesn't have a consort. You're imagining that God has to give birth like a human does. But if like the Quran says Allah is unlike His creation, we also hold that God is not like His creation. Instead, we are similar to Him in that we are made in His image. So that's the similitude we have between us and God, right? However, if God needs a son, or if God has a son, He does not require to give birth to the son. We simply say that the son eternally proceeds from the Father.
Okay, well, let's just stick on
so that's not a pagan idea.
You're saying it's not a pagan idea. You're imagining a God with relationships like
you are,
have.
not me.
Okay, so you're saying a divine God that has relationships in a way that God only has relations with, like a son, children, and in a way that only God.
That relationship is love.
Of love, and they will love each other, and you rely for your worship and your salvation. You rely on the Son of that.
So we rely on all three persons, and here's how we do it. We have a formula for this. So we direct our prayers to the Father, right, in the name of the Son, in the power of the Spirit, right? So for example, when the disciples of God asked Him, how do we pray? He said, our Father who art in heaven, right? In John 14:14, Jesus says that you can ask Him for anything in His name and He will grant it to you. And then we see later in Romans and in the book of Acts that the Spirit is what then convicts us to get closer to God.
Okay, so you're worshipping three beings, basically.
Persons, not beings.
You're worshipping three persons. Okay.
Yep.
You worshipping three persons. How are you better than the pagan that worships 4, 5, or 6, or 10?
Because they don't worship the God of the universe. They worship something that they made that serves their own needs. Muslims, and they have an answer for me, right? Okay. If Allah is unlike His creation, that means He can't be one person.
No, because what? Because okay. I'll tell you why. Why God being one person is more likely for Him to be unlike His creation. You have a mother. Listen, I'll tell you why. God being one and not having any relations is unlike His creation, and God having relations is more like His creation. I'll tell you why. You have a mother. You're saying that Jesus has a mother. You're saying that Jesus is God. You're saying that God has a mother. Technically, that's what you're saying. Now, for us here, we believe Allah is unlike His creation in His oneness, because unlike us, you have mothers, you have sons, you have daughters, you have God is not in need of any of this. You want to be a believer, you want to believe in God, All I tell you is come to the religion of Isa alayhi salam and the religion of Ibrahim, which is Islam, to Allah. That's it.
No, it'd be Christianity actually.
Okay, and today, let's analyze Islam and Christianity today.
Wait, let me pause you for a second there. Is Allah one person?
Allah is one.
Is He one person?
I don't want to use words that Allah hasn't used for Himself. I don't remember the word person in Arabic being used for Allah.
Okay, so a person communicates. Can Allah communicate?
Allah can communicate.
So He has personhood.
What do you mean?
He has personhood.
I didn't say He's a person.
The ability to communicate.
I didn't say He's a person. I just said
okay, can you communicate with a cat? Can you communicate effectively with a cat?
I don't want to answer your question, but I'm trying to understand what you're getting to. Just get to the point, yeah.
What I'm getting to here is that a cat doesn't have personhood, right? Which is why they can effectively communicate with a human being, right? You can communicate with cats through growls and moans and meows, but that's about it, right? It's something intelligible. It's more about intent and vocalization. When Allah talks to Jibril or talks to Muhammad, right, He can effectively communicate with him in a language that he understands and then transmit a coherent message. So Allah has personhood, right?
What you've done is, by the way, the reason why I don't want to keep answering these arguments is because you know the answer to these arguments. I just want to pull you back.
The answer is that if Allah is unlike His creation, then He can't be one person, because that would mean it's like His creation. So He has to be at least two persons.
No, that's not the answer.
And Allah, nothing in His creation is two persons.
Everything in His creation is two.
No, nothing is two persons.
Everything.
How many persons are you?
Okay, I'll tell you why all of His creation is dual. Okay.
No, that's not what I said. I said a single thing isn't two persons.
Let me answer how I think.
You're wrong already.
Okay, if I'm wrong, okay. Can you just
You're going to tell me that Allah made things in twos,
Yes.
Well, that's not true because there's certain animals that only appear once.
What do you mean?
There's certain reptiles, seahorses, and worms that only
you're
appear
talking about
once.
the exception to the rule,
Yeah.
rather than the thing that is the most evident.
Well, it's not everything then. It's only some things.
Okay, listen.
Or most things.
Don't be. I'll just tell you one last thing. 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't want to keep going back and forth because
Okay.
you've probably spoken to many Muslims.
I have.
Okay. Focus on Tawheed. That is the main message of Islam.
No, because the Bible says that you believe in one God. Good. Even the devil believes in one God. So that doesn't matter. It does. I can show you.
God, Tawheed doesn't mean worshipping a God.
Look here.
Tawheed doesn't mean worshipping a God. Tawheed means worshipping Allah. It's different. I didn't say worship one being. I said worship Allah. That's not the same.
He said this in reference to God Almighty. So look here. This is in James, the disciple of Christ, right? Oh, let me get you a better version. This is in James 2:19, right? This is James speaking in reference to God, right? He says the following. So he's talking to the believers. I can start with 18 if you want. But someone will say, you have faith and I have works. Talking about salvation, right? Show me your faith apart from your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. So how you attain salvation in Christianity. It's not about doing good works. It's about doing good works in Christ, right? Now, it says, you believe that God is one. Well, you do well. Even the demons believe and shudder. So ultimately, this is a reference not to a God, but to the God of the universe. And it's simply telling you here that the idea of Tawheed means nothing. The most important thing about God isn't that He's one. Absolutely, yes. But it's about His relationship with us.
Okay, okay, you're saying the devils
believe and shudder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even the mushriks of Mecca believe that God is one. The issue of Tawheed isn't just believing that God is one. The issue of Tawheed is worshipping God alone. That's the difference. The demons don't worship God, they go against His command. So, focus on Tawheed, not misrepresent Tawheed, but focus on Tawheed in terms of direct your worship and prayer, at least like Unitarian Christians, but even better, I just say just come to Islam.
Well, the problem is Unitarian Christians technically believe that Jesus Christ is their salvation.
Yeah, but
do you believe that?
No.
Okay.
One country is Islam. It's not Unitarian Christianity.
Okay.
What I say, come to Islam. It's the truth.
Islam makes no sense.
Everything that I said to you is anything that doesn't make sense to me.
Okay, so fundamentally, your idea about how to attain salvation, and I'm not attacking you by the way, I hope you don't feel that way, but your idea of how to attain salvation and how we can then meet God is completely false. Because if God is perfect, we too must be perfect to meet Him.
I already told you that idea is a pagan idea.
That would mean God isn't perfect.
I can't tell you why it's a pagan idea.
No, you see, it's not a pagan idea.
It is.
So if you remember, you told me that the pagan idea is that we can't reach God,
alone.
So we have to go through idols, right?
Through any intermediary.
I am telling you that Jesus Christ is God, so you cannot reach the Father, who is God, unless you go to the Son, who is also God. That's what I mean.
You're saying.
So you're no, I'm saying two persons. You're getting to God the Father through God the Son.
Okay, getting to God through God. Let's just stick to the idea. Getting to God through God.
Absolutely, right?
Getting to God through God. Okay.
Yeah.
So what we might do.
Like it's like you. How else can you get to Allah but through Allah?
Yeah, get to Allah through Allah. Allah is not Jesus though, and Allah doesn't have a son, so it's different to God. That's why I'm saying.
Then that's why He's not the God of Abraham.
The God of Abraham was the God of a son.
Abraham saw Jesus, so Abraham knew that Christ has a son.
Abraham, in his time, didn't see Jesus.
He did.
No, he didn't.
He did.
While he was alive.
Yep.
When? Where?
Do you want to see the story?
Show me the story because it's going to make sense.
Sure thing. Well, if you go into it already, presupposing.
Because what I'm presupposing is because your religion already puts down the previous prophets and makes up stories about them and says that this and that and that.
Well, your religion does the same thing.
It doesn't. No, about.
Bring out your Quran right now. I'll show you.
What do you mean? I have the Quran. I know all of it, but I know the Quran.
Are you Hafiz?
I'm not Hafiz, but I have hifz of a lot of it.
Tell me what Abraham did wrong in the Quran.
What do you mean? Where?
So, give me a moment.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. I read the Quran. I understand it in Arabic a lot.
All right, that's fair. Let me start with David because that's the one I remember. So in Surah 38, Surah Sad.
Is it the one?
Where the two men came to him.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know that story. I can tell you without even having to read it.
Good.
I know that
Can you please tell me why he sought Allah's forgiveness?
Yeah. By the way, for us, sinning and seeking forgiveness isn't the same for you.
Why would you seek forgiveness if you haven't sinned?
Yeah, but can I tell you why it's not the same? We're not speaking about the same concept of forgiveness. The concept of forgiveness in Islam is as soon as you ask for forgiveness from Allah, He forgives you. That's the concept of forgiveness for Islam.
Then that means Allah isn't just.
No, how is that not just?
To be just means to demand recompense for when wrongs are done.
Yeah, He does get recompense.
What is it?
If you don't if you sin and you don't repent and you die, you're gonna get recompense. You're gonna get hellfire.
Right. So only when you die.
Of course.
But not while you're alive.
That's when the test ends. You believe in the same thing.
Not quite.
You believe that if somebody doesn't accept Jesus before they die, you believe that death is
because Christ is God.
Yeah, but
right?
you believe that death is where
there's no hope in the grave because it's in Proverbs.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So we believe in the same thing.
But not quite. You believe something different. So for us, if you don't accept Christ, that means you deny God.
Yeah, if you don't accept Christ and you die not accepting Christ, you get hellfire. Similarly, if you sin in Islam and you don't repent and you die unrepentant, you get punished at least for a time.
Right, but I'm asking you that if Allah is just, right, and you sin and ask for forgiveness, where's the recompense?
The recompense is because you ask for forgiveness, Allah forgives you. If you die...
So the request alone is good enough for Allah?
Yes, because that, for us, I'll tell you why we differ. In all of those stories for us, if they might have made a mistake and they return, Allah forgives them. I'll give you an example.
That's a sin.
I'll give you another example. Yeah, but we don't believe sins the way you believe sins.
But
for us,
sin is going against God.
For us, sins, for you, sin is like this deathly thing. You're damned, your sin... For us, we were created as sinners and to repent to Allah.
Yeah, we weren't created as sinners, unfortunately for us.
Yeah, for you guys,
we fell into sin, yeah.
And falls into sin.
Yeah.
For us, you are created and you created without sin, as in like baby's not sinful. If you sin...
Well, I haven't heard either that says it differently from that, actually.
There isn't, but...
I can show you.
You can show me the hadith.
All right, so you...
explain the story.
It's Sahih Muslim, Book of Destiny.
Explain the story. وظن داود, the last bit. وظن داود أن ما فتناه فاستغفر ربه وخر راكعا وأناب. Dawood felt that he had been tested. فاستغفر ربه. He asked forgiveness of his Lord. He done prostration, which all of the prophets did.
But what did he do?
He felt his
what did he do wrong that required him to do that?
His sin, for us, his sin. Okay, I'll give you a concept.
I know the tafsir for this one, by the way.
I'll give you a
and it's what happens in the Bible.
I'll give you a concept.
Okay.
For you guys, somebody's sin is like something damning to them that they can't return from.
No, that's they can through Christ.
Only through, yeah, that's what you say.
And only through Allah.
That's what you say. We say through istighfar to Allah.
Okay, and we say through Christ, who's God.
I'll tell you the difference.
The same thing.
I'll tell you the difference. Isa, for us, needs Allah. Because Isa is a creation of Allah.
He's not.
Is he not a creation of Allah?
No.
What do you mean?
In a sense, he is, you could say, that he is divine like Allah. In that he is the word of Allah.
Sorry, I just want to say
and the spirit of Allah.
The verse after that when he seek forgiveness. فغفرنا له ذلك. So we forgive him.
But for what though?
Listen. وإنا له عندنا لزلفى وحسن مآب. And indeed there is most surely for him nearness to us and a beautiful place to return. You can be near to Allah just by seeking forgiveness from Allah for your sins.
I'm asking you, what did he do wrong?
The reason I don't focus on that is because the Quran itself isn't focusing on that.
Tell me what he did wrong.
Yeah, but the Quran isn't focusing on that.
Okay, so for a random reason,
he's forgiven, then
right. So for a random reason, David did something wrong.
Random reason, but for us, listen. The reason why I don't want to go down the argument that you're
I
down,
do.
I'll tell you why not. Because
come down with me.
The reason why is your concept of sin and forgiveness is so different to our concept that if you look at us and say this person sinned, that person sinned, that person, you're going by the understanding that your teachers teach you of if anybody sins they need Jesus. In the Quran it's not teaching that.
If you sin, don't you need Allah?
Yeah, but Allah says فغفرنا له ذلك. We've forgiven that for him. وإن له عندنا لزلفى وحسن مآب. And then he's close to us. Allah.
You're repeating yourself.
I'll tell you, Allah is not a creation of Allah. Allah is not in need of himself or in need of another being. Allah is not in need of us at all. That's why he can forgive us. You're saying go to Jesus. Isa is in need, like for us, you've probably already read about the scene of the Day of Judgment when Isa is speaking to Allah.
You would have known.
Yeah, hold.
Well,
have it back.
I still want to know what he did wrong.
I would say, why should I focus on that if it says that he's been forgiven?
Because in order for you to be forgiven, you have to do something wrong. What did you do wrong?
Yeah, but if you're forgiven, does it matter?
Yeah, it does matter because we need to know why it's happening. Otherwise, it's random.
You are doing this. I'll tell you why you're doing this. You are doing this as a plot because you see that all of the prophets before Jesus were sinful and were therefore not perfect. Jesus is perfect, therefore he's not a prophet, he's God. That logic is actually so flawed because if Jesus was perfect, why did he walk on this earth? Why did he eat? Why did he need sustenance?
Because he was in the incarnation. But ultimately, he never committed any sins. So in the eyes of God, he was perfect.
Sins against who?
Against God. He followed the law perfectly.
That doesn't make sense.
Well,
because you're saying he's God and you're saying he sins against God.
Yes, so he's God in the flesh, and flesh is tempted to sin, but despite him having a flesh and being able to sin, he didn't do it.
Let's take the flesh tempted to sin.
I would like to know what David did wrong
let's
first.
Let's take that word. I would say to him,
what did David do wrong?
I would say your words back to him, flesh is tempted to sin. Dawood might have been tempted.
Okay.
He repented and he was forgiven.
Right, he was tempted.
So why would he focus on
tempted to do what?
What do you mean? Well, I respect my prophets.
I can't do that without
Thank you.
Me, I respect my prophets. And I respect the prophets before Muhammad, so I don't focus on their mistakes that they were forgiven for.
Okay, so ultimately,
if Allah forgive him, who are me to speak on the sin?
Ultimately, the prophets that we have in the Bible were also forgiven. But the problem that you're having,
if he's near to Allah and he's forgiven,
but
who am I to speak on the sin?
Here's the issue. You told me before that Christians defame the prophets. No, we don't. We admit that they did sins. And you know what's the funniest thing?
But why? But why do you admit that they did sins?
Because they're not perfect and they're men.
You're looking for
you know what's funnier?
What's funny?
This particular hadith, right? Have you ever read, sorry, my mistake. This particular ayah. Have you ever read Al-Jalalain? Al-Jalalain, a 14th century book by a Quranic exegete.
I don't read to any Quranic exegetes. I only read to
tafsir.
Yeah, but I don't read any tafsir. I just read like the confirmed Sunnah.
Al-Jalalain actually quotes the Bible for this one. So he admits that what happened here is that David was lusting after a woman called Bathsheba.
No, but it doesn't say it in that verse.
But you see,
the test there. Okay, let me answer you because now I need to answer you because you basically misinterpreted that. Well,
that's what Jalalain said.
Lied on David.
Okay.
In there, the fitna is that the people came to ask for a judgment, and he gave a judgment like incorrect. Basically, he gave an incorrect judgment, but he knew that. He realized that and he quickly repented.
Do you know what his judgment was?
For the two men, I know the story.
What was the judgment?
The guy came and he said, my brother, whoever has more sheep than
99,
like that.
Yeah, and I have one.
I only have one.
Yep.
And then give me a judgment in that. And he said, oh yeah, surely.
No, you missed out one more part. He's taken mine.
Yeah, but the thing is, the reason that part of the story isn't important because
it is important.
Yeah, but I'll tell you why. That part of the story for us, all it's teaching us is that Dawood made a mistake, sinned, and repented and was forgiven and became nearest to Allah. You focus on those stories to make out faults for the prophet.
Here's why it's a problem.
You don't. Allah isn't
and
trying
here's
to
why you should.
If
If two men came to him, by the way, Jalalain says that they were angels, but if two men came to him, right, and then they were disputing on a manner where one man had 99 sheep and the other one had one, and the one with 99 took the one from the man with a single sheep, and David admitted that this was wrong and that it should be returned. No. David admitted that what had happened to the man with one sheep was wrong.
He made a great judgment.
Right. So the fact that David wanted to enact justice by returning the one sheep to the man who owned the one sheep from the man who owned many sheep and stole the one sheep, how can that be incorrect?
He repented, realized his mistake.
You're not getting me, right? So basically, he judged justly, and Allah still wants forgiveness for this?
He himself realized that his judgment was wrong, and he himself repented.
So does that mean that he should have just said, get lost?
No. He realized his own mistake. Listen, me as a person, I don't focus on the mistakes of the Prophet.
Can you please, repeat this to me, right? A man has 99 sheep. Yep. Point one.
This is a fitna. You know what fitna is? It's a trial. That was a trial for David.
Okay.
You are highlighting his trial and
here's
telling
the
it to
problem.
me. So you're trying to give me a trial.
Here's the problem,
I don't want
right?
to call it a trial of David, okay?
Well, you wouldn't, right? Because
No.
I'm not asking you to make a judgment,
No.
right? I'm asking you to play through with
what
me.
you're doing is like, you are giving me the trial that David was
I'm not giving you the trial because I'm not going to ask you to make a judgment.
He repented and Allah forgiven him. That's enough for us. We don't need to go into it.
Right.
You guys, in your books and in your Bible, what you like to do a lot is you like to fault the previous prophets, and you like to evidence that a sin is some damning thing. In Islam, sins are not damning. In Islam, Allah created us and He knew that we would sin.
Well, again, from what I'm telling you here, it appears that David judged justly, but Allah didn't think it was just.
No, because it says that He Himself repented.
If I steal something,
he had a gun. He felt.
If I steal something from you, and we go to a police officer, and then he says, David, give it back, but then suddenly he's like, oh snap, I made a mistake.
He felt. Let's say Allah told him he was wrong. He felt that he had made a mistake. And he fell to the ground in frustration. Let's focus on this. That form of worship, right? Bringing ourselves to the ground. Humility. We like to be humble. We are simple. We be humble. That's nearness to Allah. That's it. You humble your face to the ground and you're near to Allah. However many sins you've committed, you humble yourself.
You're in the way of my thing. You're in the way of my thing.
However sins.
Go over there, please.
However sins you're forgiven.
Please don't break it, please.
However sins you're forgiven, you humble yourself, you put your face to the floor, and you return to Allah, and He forgives you. That's it.
How is it a sin to judge justly?
What do you mean? Judging unjustly.
Justly.
It's not justly because He said Himself that I'm not going to go into the trial of a prophet who was then forgiven and Allah accepted him, and then fall into his trial and look at where he might have made mistakes. I don't want to fall myself into trial. Me, if I make a mistake, let me leave that prophet because he's forgiven by Allah. And me, I'm nobody compared to Prophet Dawood. Me, if I make a mistake, if I sin, okay, and I feel dirty and I feel far away from Allah and I feel whatever, yeah, I'm not going to then go to another man that I think is more pious than me and say, forgive me my sin. No, I just pray, repent to Allah, and He forgives me. That's it.
I understand your belief, but it's just flawed.
How is that not a better concept than relying on other people or intermediaries?
Because there's only one intermediary. It's not is, it's simply one. And the intermediary is the creator of the heaven and the earth. So who better?
The intermediary is Allah.
It's God. It's God the Son.
It's not intermediary. It's not intermediary. Allah
it is. That's what the Bible says.
Okay, Allah created you.
Well, no, Christ created me.
He's Christ's creation.
No, it's not. Because He is the one who created all things. He has the name above all names, according to the Bible. All authority on earth is subject to Him. He is the heir. He is the first and the last. So Jesus Christ was all these things before Allah came around.
That's not true.
It is true.
He had a mother.
Who was the first to claim to be the first and the last? Allah or Jesus?
Does he have a mother?
He had a mother in the incarnation. In the incarnation only, but before that He pre-existed. That's how come He met Abraham and created the world.
So He put Himself into a womb of a woman.
Yes, yeah, essentially, yes. He took on human flesh.
The perfect being has gone into a womb of a woman.
Yes, by taking on flesh.
That's not perfection.
It is.
In Islam, Allah is behind the hijab. He's behind this.
Which is crazy.
Okay, he's behind the sittra.
That was making sense.
He's behind the sittra, right? The Prophet Muhammad, when he went up to Allah, he just saw light.
Sahih Muslim 1798. I know
He
that.
saw light, yes?
Yeah.
That is Allah. That is perfection. Coming into a womb of a mother isn't perfection.
I would say that's not perfection.
My light is a baby perfect.
Huh?
You were in the womb of your mother.
Yes, I was.
Were you perfect while you were in the womb of your mother? Or were you in need of your mother?
Understand this, right? If God takes on human flesh, then because the divine essence of God stays with the human flesh, then by extension the human flesh.
Does that befit God?
So the befitting majesty thing is a complete fallacy.
Say why it's a fallacy.
Simple. I am alive. I don't agree with Allah, right? I think He's made up, right? Does it befit Allah's majesty to keep air in my lungs?
That's not from. That is from His mercy and from His justice.
Okay, so we know that Allah. So in terms of Allah's majesty, getting degraded by me is something that is befitting.
You don't degrade Allah. You know why you don't degrade Allah? Me and you. Okay,
I don't believe He's
I'll
God.
tell you why. Do you believe Allah is above the heavens?
No.
Do you believe that Jesus is above the heavens?
Yeah.
Okay, let's just say Jesus then, for you. Like me, I wouldn't call Allah Jesus ever. For you, Jesus. A being who's above the heavens, you know how big the universe is. Can you just tell how big the universe is?
Kind of big.
Imagine that just the universe.
Okay.
We're on planet Earth.
Okay.
In England.
Okay.
We're tiny. You sin.
You tell me about that video.
No, forget the video.
Okay.
You sin. You sin. How is your sin affecting the majesty of one that is in the heavens?
So I would not say that sin affects the majesty of God in my concept. Yeah. So in my concept, right? You state an action such as coming down in the form of a man and claiming that action does not befit His majesty, right? Now, if that action doesn't befit His majesty, where is the line to then say that what I am doing and Him still sustaining me befits His majesty?
Because He sustains you because you're a creation of Him. Okay? So He sustains you. He's the sustainer of everybody, even the non-believers.
Okay.
Your disbelief in Him only affects you negatively because when you die, you meet the consequence of that.
But it befits His majesty to allow me to disbelieve, right?
That's free will. The argument of free will is different.
So I would say if it befits His majesty to allow me to sin, why can't He also come down here?
Him Himself.
Yep.
Why this you okay, this is
not in Allah's full magnitude, but why can't He join unto Himself the nature of something finite like a human being?
It doesn't befit Allah because we would.
But it doesn't say that anywhere, not in the Hadith, not in the Quran, not nowhere.
It says in the Quran.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it says that it's not befitting Allah. It says وَقَالُوا اتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ وَلَدًا. They say Allah has taken a son. Subhana.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the incarnation here, about Allah Himself joining onto Himself a human nature. Why is that unbefitting?
Okay, you believe in the way. Okay, how do you believe that Moses spoke to God?
Face to face?
Sorry, face to face.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't believe that. How do you believe that?
Well, if you look at Surah 28, verse 30, and Surah 20, verse 10, in those two instances, Moses is talking to Allah to the burning bush.
That's not face to face.
Well, Allah is calling from the bush, so you can say face to face in an intimate fashion.
Not face to face. Speaking to Allah. He interacted with Allah in terms of.
So when I say face to face, I mean intimately.
No, but that you have to. That wording is different. Face to face means that He sees Allah.
Okay, fine, intimately.
Yeah, because Allah spoke to him. Okay, that is befitting of His Majesty. That Allah spoke to Musa. It's not befitting of His Majesty that Allah came and said, "Hello, Moses," in His being.
But how can you tell this?
Okay, because the story when Moses said, "Show me, let me see you,"
and then He appeared behind the mountain.
He came onto the mountain,
and it blew up,
and everybody, yeah.
And then Moses passed out.
Yeah. That is the majesty of Allah. That is Allah. If He came
so,
and saw you,
I was going to point that out actually because technically Allah can enter creation.
I didn't say that. What do you mean? Allah can enter creation.
Yep.
What do you mean?
Allah literally appeared in creation, blew up a mountain, and made Moses pass out.
The creation was destroyed.
The mountain was destroyed, yes.
So how is He bringing creation?
Because He appeared there and the mountain was destroyed as a result. Because don't forget, He said that if this mountain does not get destroyed, you will see me.
It was destroyed though.
Right.
So He did enter creation.
Yeah, right. But implying that if the mountain could withhold the effort of Allah being there, that He would have seen Allah.
The mountains can't even withhold the speech of Allah. They shake.
What, Isa?
The Quran.
The word of Allah. Isa, right? The kalima too. And Isa too.
Isa alayhi salam
is the kalima too.
Yeah, but that's not the speech of Allah.
It's the word of Allah.
That's not the speech of Allah.
Right, but the word of Allah is the command by which He simply says be and it is, and then things occur.
No, but that's not Isa.
It is Isa.
No, it isn't.
He's called the word in the Quran.
Yeah, but it's not the speech of Allah.
Okay, what's the word of Allah?
The word of Allah is the Quran.
But Isa is the word of Allah too.
Isa is not the word of Allah.
He is the word of Allah.
The word of Allah is the Quran.
So Isa in the Quran is called the Kalimatu Allah.
Okay, that's a title ascribed to Isa, but his word.
He's also called the Spirit of Allah.
Okay, that's
the Ruh Allah.
Well,
okay, what does it mean? So you know how, like, for example, Abraham is called Khalil Allah.
You have to look you have to look at the Quran as a whole because Isa also says إن the Quran إن خلق عيسى كمثل آدم خلقه من طين ثم قال له كن فيكون. The creation of Isa, Jesus,
is like Adam.
So if you know that I know this, why you focus? What you're trying to do is you're trying to confuse me by focusing on specific verses.
This is a problem.
Focusing on specific verses when I've read the entire Quran, and the entire Quran does not bring any type of, except rather it says the opposite. Don't say that Allah is three in one. Don't say that Allah has taken a son. Okay, you as probably has read the Quran. You've heard this message from me. Okay, we're going to depart. You're going to go to your house. You're going to live. You're going to continue your life as a Christian. Do you think it's the true message? I've given you this message. When you face judgment, you have to face that message. If you want to say the same thing to me, is that you preach to me relying on the Jesus Christ. I will only tell you that me myself as a person will not rely on another man who is in need of Allah.
No, this is God coming down in the flesh. Like Allah appeared in the burning bush. Like that.
It's not Allah.
Yes?
It's not Allah.
It is. If you want to call it Allah, it's Allah coming in the flesh.
The Quran says that Allah is glorified above coming as a person.
Here is the problem. Jesus said many things in the Bible. I told you about some of them, right? He said you can pray in His name. He said everything that belongs to the Father is His.
Huh? Did He pray?
Yes, He communicated with the Father, but also the Father communicates with Him as well.
He prayed to Allah.
But then the Father prays to Him too. It does. Look at Hebrews 1 verse 8.
Allah doesn't pray to anyone.
Okay, but we have this occurring in the Bible. That's why I tell you that overall, the Quran and Islam is just a mistake. Because it comes with no backing of anything. It just makes things up as it goes along.
The message of Islam is a message that any person can understand. It's a message that you are accountable for yourself, and that God, who is much above us and perfect to us, all He needs from us is to repent to Him.
And then I would say that's incomplete. You need to add two things to it, right? What you need to add to it is that yes, we are responsible for our own sins, right? Absolutely. But because God is so holy, we can't of ourselves come to Him. That's the part you're missing.
Okay, how is that type of da'wah going to affect somebody who already relies on another intermediary to God?
Like what?
Like maybe a chef, like maybe one of their teachers, or like maybe a grave, or like maybe a righteous person.
I would say, like it says in the book of James, draw close to God and He will draw close to you. I would tell them that there's no need to rely on your sheikh alone, that you yourself have the ability to get to know God
rely on Jesus.
By Jesus, exactly.
But you're telling them, don't, you're basically telling them, don't.
No, I'm not. I'm saying rely on God, yes.
You're saying
God's way.
You're giving them what they already do, and you're just replacing their person that they worship
with God. Yes, because Islam, people worship money, for example.
In Islam, what it's doing is it's annihilating even the idea that you need an intermediary
at the cost of your own salvation, which is the problem. It is.
So you think you're going to meet God? Okay, tell me. You think? Okay, all right. Bring your example. But you think I'm going to meet God, having only worshipped God, having only relied on God, and then God will kick me out?
Yes, He will. Because you know why?
Does that make sense?
You're not perfect.
He created me.
But you're not perfect.
He created me imperfect.
Look at this, for example.
But He created me imperfect. He could have made me an angel.
5, 4.
It doesn't make sense. You know what you're saying.
Look at this, right?
You know what you're saying.
It says Matthew 5:48, right? Now this is Christ talking. We have it in red letters in the Bible, so to let us know when like Christ is talking, right? We just keep it in red to make it easier for us to read and understand what's being said. Christ says this in Matthew 5:48. You therefore must be perfect, as your heavenly Father is perfect. So in order for you to attain salvation, you have to be perfect. And in Islam, there is no perfection.
Is the perfect worshipping a creation?
No. That's not the perfection. And I'm telling you that Christ isn't a creation. Christ is the creator of the world. He is.
How can He be created and the creator of the world?
So He is the creator of the world.
And He chose to put Himself in the creation.
Who joined on to Himself a human nature so that He could enter creation. Well, you don't get to decide, unfortunately, what befits God.
Because God told us it doesn't befit Him.
Well,
if I was speaking to you,
it doesn't say that anywhere.
It says that.
So in the Quran, all it mentions is that He's not taking on a son, but it says nothing about Him not being able to enter His creation.
It says that He's above the heavens.
Okay, but in the Hadith, He also comes down every night to the lowest heaven to hear our prayers.
Yeah, in heaven.
Yeah, but so technically, the lowest heaven is in creation. It's not outside of creation.
Well, you're saying the type of the reason why this won't work is this type of argument is a type of argument that sadly some deviant Muslim sects adopted that Allah is a part of creation.
Well, your
sense to the Lord's heaven.
Which
so
is
that befits His Majesty.
So basically, whatever Allah does, so this idea of majesty, right? It's a bit confusing.
How is it confusing?
Is majesty any action that Allah does? So if Allah did appear here as a dragon, would you have to say, oh, that befits His Majesty because He's done the action?
Allah would appear as a dragon.
No, but basically, what I'm hearing from you is that whatever He does befits His Majesty. There's not a hard set rule of what He can and cannot do.
He can do everything, but He only does what fits His Majesty.
For example, there's a hadith about the day of resurrection and how Allah will come to the believers in a form that they understand. Yeah, in a form that they understand, and He will show them His shin, and then they will know who He is. Does it befit Allah to show us His shin?
By the way, in that hadith, where you would fall in is much earlier when it said the Christians will follow what they worship, the cross, and where into hellfire. Why into hellfire? Is Jesus going to hellfire? He isn't. Isa alayhi salam, he's not going to hellfire.
Well, He's God, so.
And Isa is not God.
He's already been anyway.
And Isa is not God.
He is.
He's not God.
He is. He has to be.
He doesn't say He was God.
He says it right here. This is Revelations 1:17. This is Him talking again in the red.
But the reason why I don't like use the word God, you throw it about loosely. Jesus is God. This person is God. That person is God. That person is God.
Fear not. No, we don't. We only use it for the Father and Spirit. Here, look at this. Fear not. I am the first and the last. I am the living one. I died, and behold, I am alive forevermore. I have the keys of death and Hades. Write, therefore, the things that you have seen, those
Why is it calling hellfire Hades?
Huh?
Why is it calling hellfire Hades?
Greek, that's all.
Do you know what? Do you know that's paganism?
Well, it's a Greek word for hell. Same idea.
Yeah, but do you know that following basically, if you follow the tradition of the people, you can become like that people.
Right, but we don't because we follow Christ, right?
Yeah, but
so as you can see right here,
Nar Jahannam is not a word that is used by the pagans. Right? They don't say Jahannam.
I mean, it's just taken from Hebrew.
It's not. Nar means fire. Jahannam, Jahim is taken from
it's the same thing as in Hebrew.
And the Jews were worshippers of pagans. They weren't.
Well, you claim that there was Tawhid in the Old Testament.
Greeks that say,
so you're focusing on the wrong thing here.
No, but do you know why I'm doing that?
Because technically, we use the word hell, which comes from the word Hades. So again, that doesn't make it any more correct.
But the Greek mythologists also believe in Hades. So why are you putting that in your book?
Because if you use the word Hades or hell to refer to the same thing, it makes no difference.
No, it does make. Words are really important. I'll tell you why words are really important.
It doesn't.
They are really important.
Okay, so where does the word hell come from?
We say Nar, we say Jahim, we say Jahannam. We don't know these words.
So is hell a pagan word?
What do you mean?
Is hell a pagan word?
Quran doesn't say the word hell.
Well, it comes from Hades, so it has to be pagan.
Quran doesn't say the word hell.
Okay. It says some random Arabic word that basically is translated to hell.
It's an Arabic word.
Okay, that's taken from Hebrew.
It's not taken from
it is. And then,
either way, bro, that is not a perfect book that you should be following to get close to God.
So, fear not,
because that's
I am the first and I am the last, the living one. Who is the first and the last in your religion?
By the way, in our religion, Isa dies. Not now, but he dies.
Who's the first and last in your religion?
Okay, but can I just finish? In our religion, Isa dies.
Well, yeah, Allah killed him, I know, yes.
No, Allah doesn't kill him.
Allah does kill him. Allah does kill him.
Kill.
Allah takes him up to him, right?
He's alive at that point.
Huh?
Taking up to him, he's still alive.
How can you go to heaven and be alive in a human body?
What do you mean?
So, in a human body, you have needs to go to the toilet and eat and drink, like the Quran reminds you. So how can Isa be in heaven right now if he's still a human being?
Yeah, but because Allah allowed that to happen.
Where does it say that anywhere?
By the way, he doesn't die when he's going up to heaven.
What?
He dies later on.
Allah takes him as a spirit into heaven.
Yeah, into heaven. Well, it's also in the conversation, but anyways, I'm telling you, follow a book.
Siraj, stop looking for trouble. Siraj, calm down, Siraj. Stop looking for trouble. Sorry.
Basically, to summarize, don't follow a book that is similar to paganism, and don't follow a concept of ibadah that you're worshipping a person because you think you're imperfect. You are enough to get to Allah. That's what I'll tell you.
That means Allah is imperfect then. So I don't want to see God is imperfect. But right here, Jesus Christ is saying of himself that he is the first and the last. And Allah says that later. So that would mean that Jesus Christ had a name that Allah is not using.
Jesus and Jesus Christ and Jesus to you, when you say Jesus, you're thinking of God. I say Isa alayhi salam, and I say what Isa said as to what is told us in the Quran.
So this is why I'm telling you that Isa barely says anything in the Quran, really. You don't even have 2 minutes of content for what he said in the
He does
Quran.
say, there's a lot about Isa.
He barely says anything.
There is, isn't there?
All you have is him...
There's more than about Muhammad speaking himself.
Huh?
There's more of Isa speaking himself than Muhammad speaking himself.
Sure thing, but then you have the
Like,
entire...
your argument doesn't make sense.
No, my argument isn't saying that Isa speaks more or less than Muhammad. My argument is that if you're relying on the Quran to know who Jesus Christ is, then you're failing very, very badly.
Because the Quran...
It's not enough.
Okay, how is it not enough?
Because
for me, I would rather learn the Quran than a book that has tashabbuh, similarities to paganism. Like, I can't read something and say, oh, Hades, okay, let me not try to get into Hades. And then you got pagan Greeks saying, yeah, let me avoid Hades.
One second ago...
three-headed dog and da-da-da.
So, 1 second ago...
is basically following paganism.
Right. So, because a word in Greek is used, right, to describe a concept in the Bible, you're now telling me... So, you know how before when we were talking, you told me that I was focusing on what the sin that David was doing.
Yeah, but you know
and then you brushed over it completely.
You know why
I am saying it's just a word.
You know why it's not just words? The Greek tradition itself that was highly paganistic influenced the Christian traditions that we see today. For example, Christmas. Directly from the Greeks.
Christmas doesn't come from the Greeks.
I'm speaking history.
It comes from the Germanic tribes, first of all. So you messed that one up.
No, it doesn't.
It does.
No, it doesn't.
It does. It comes from the Germanic tribes, first of all, who were Christianized in the 300s, right? And then secondly, there's various historical events, particularly in the European context, that occur during the time of Christmas. Like, for example, in the 800s, Charlemagne the Great was anointed Holy Roman Empire on Christmas Day. So as a result, that day is commemorated as, number one, the birth of Christ, but it also incorporates, it also comes in place of a number of traditions at that same time.
Today, right now, one of my friends are Muslim, but at time, I have a lot of friends that are Christian. When I spoke to them, some of them don't even celebrate Christmas because they know they themselves.
You can celebrate it not for Santa, but for Christ.
So they themselves said that it's a pagan.
So as a kid, I grew up in Nigeria, and every Christmas we always went to the church, did nativity plays, and then we ate and praised God.
Yeah, but the Christians themselves told me, I believe this is a pagan.
Because they're
origins.
talking about the consumerist part of it.
No, because of the origins. Because it was a ruler.
They don't know the origins.
This is history. Like, if you just, go on Wikipedia, Christmas.
Right.
And you go to origins.
Right.
You're going to see that it was a ruler who wanted to concede to some pagan followers who had their
Who was the ruler?
solace. I don't know the exact ruler, but I don't focus on the actions of
You're
pagans.
incorrect, my guy. I'm sorry, but you're incorrect. You're very incorrect.
Look it up after this.
Right? I have looked this up, and I told you it is simply number one, commemorating the birth of Christ.
Was Jesus born on the 25th of December?
So again, it is not asking for the exact date. For example, you have no idea when the very first Ramadan was, right? But you commemorate every single Ramadan day from the first one. We have no idea when it happens.
It's not the same argument.
It is the same argument, right? Because effectively, everything that you do, at least like your sheikhs and ulamas do, in terms of telling you exactly when Ramadan should occur, is based off of the very first initial one. Well, you have no idea when the first one was. So therefore, you're basically making up when it should occur.
No, the similarity is in the Christmas.
Not to mention that Ramadan was already being practiced by the pagans. In fact, in the story in Bukhari, it would tell you that Muhammad was in the cave because every Ramadan, the pagans would dance around the Kaaba and he would seclude himself away.
Every action that Muslims do are according to the Prophet's Sunnah, and the Sunnah is directly, the idea behind the Sunnah is directly to contradict the actions of the pagans in everything.
By copying them exactly.
Everything. No, in not doing that. In everything.
It just copies them all.
The point is, Ramadan doesn't have a date. In any of the Sunnahs, doesn't have a date.
That's not a primary issue. Like the primary issue is that I was saying Christianity has a lot of practices that are similar to paganism.
No, but you said Christmas, he's asked about Ramadan.
Is fasting sincerely for Allah. That has nothing to do with what pagans do.
And Christmas is about remembering about the Christ.
Yeah, but
and that's not what pagans do.
And not all Christians celebrate Christmas.
I know a lot of Christians that don't celebrate
Christmas. Not all of them do. So I mean, you can't throw them on the same category.
Yeah, but it's not.
But nonetheless, he asked you a question.
By the way,
Ramadan.
also, pagan rituals, they all are very similar. You can look at them and you see a lot of similarities.
But you can't tell me any.
I'll tell you one.
Okay.
I'll tell you those similarities. Like you said, consumerism earlier. That's all paganism is, consumerism.
No, it's not.
That's really what it is.
Paganism is essentially, literally, non-Christian. That's all it means.
It's not.
That's what it means.
Okay, I'll use words that don't align with how you understand the words. Shirk then. Shirky practices and the practices of the mushrikun is just built upon falseness and consumerism and quick way to heaven and quick, you're not good enough. Look at this, have this rock, have this cross, have this. That's all paganism is.
Okay, can you give me an example of just one pagan religion that tells you you're not good enough? Just one. I'll leave you.
All of them say that.
Tell me the one.
You are good enough. They all say that
okay,
you're not.
so from my understanding, right, I am no expert. I have looked into Germanic tribes like Druids. I have looked into the Norse, particularly the ones who believed in the Aesir and Vanir gods. I have looked into a little bit of the Mesoamerican understanding, things like Echua and things of that nature, right? None of these cultures, even my own culture, sorry, I'm from Nigeria, I'm Igbo. Before we became Christian, we used to worship the sun. None of them even speak about you not being good enough. It is simply you interacting your everyday life with God. That's all it is.
No,
none of them talk about you not being good enough.
Worship the sun, which is a creation, and it's telling you that you shouldn't worship your creator because you are this and you are that, and you need to go to
but you said that a commonality in pagan religions is that they insist that the individual isn't good enough. I'm saying that's not the case.
Let me give the.
You know what's funny?
Let me make that argument.
Let me make one last one if you don't mind. In regards to the Germanic tribes that believed in the Aesir and Vanir gods, so Odin, Thor, Freya, all those people. It's very funny. They believed that if you did not die fighting in an honorable manner, then you would go to hell, right? And the funny thing about it is, but if you did fight and die in an honorable manner, you would go to heaven. And then I was like, okay, that's a very interesting, valid idea. Like I wouldn't propose this. Then you go to the Quran, you go to Surah 9, Ayah 81, and it tells you that for those who fight and die for Allah, they'll go right to heaven.
Alright, so you've changed the topic.
So that's very pagan to me.
Change the topic. Yeah, you're saying that fighting for God is a pagan.
Fighting and dying for Him,
so
they'll go straight to heaven.
All of the Crusaders were pagans, in your opinion.
So did the Crusaders get from the Bible? No. I love that point. I love that point. Did the Crusaders at any point, anyone, Richard the Lionheart, Charles the Humble Martel, Peter the Hermit, right? Any of them, right? Did they look in the Bible and see a verse that told them to fight and die for God, and then went on the Crusades? The Crusades were a military expedition retaliating against Muslim encroachment on Christian lands. Stop letting your shit lie to you.
Okay, alright, I'll take the answer. Back to the main point of Tawheed and Shirk. About saying you're not good enough. All that saying you're not good enough comes down to saint worship, priest worship, intermediaries, right? That is shirk, and that is... the reason I was using the word pagan is because I thought that is like the translation in English to shirk. Apparently to you, your understanding
are you saying Christians work to get into heaven?
No, not quite.
Christianity
as a whole is just bad according to him.
It's not just bad.
Okay, but what's your
Christianity according to him is that you need something in the middle between you and God, and that thing is God's perfect son.
Okay, but hold on. Now, if you're talking about Christians, you're saying we need something between us and God. We have nothing between because we believe that in between you're talking about is God Himself. So we don't believe in in between. The only argument you have is you don't believe that in between is God. So you're saying that we believe something in between. And then
to add on that, the in between, there's two persons, and that's all. One God, two persons.
We don't believe there's a middle person. In other words, there may be a church like, let's say a Catholic church, they pray to Mary, or they pray to this. That's an intermediary. We don't believe in that. We believe in straight to God. We don't believe in going to a priest. We don't believe in going to Mary. We don't believe in going to
Jesus.
If that helps.
If you don't believe Jesus is God, then you believe that we believe that, but that's false. That's like the Trinity. You believe that Mary is part of the Trinity, that we believe Mary is part of the Trinity. We do not believe that.
The Quran says that.
You just mentioned Catholics.
No,
so Catholics aren't Christian in your
well, we don't believe the same thing. Protestants and Catholics, you know that, right?
Yeah, but Protestantism, how old is Protestantism?
Okay, but do Protestants and Catholics believe the same thing?
How old is Protestantism?
Muslims have so many sects, isn't it? 72 sects.
Yeah.
Does he know? Muslim has 72 sects.
And you can see them.
We call denomination, they call sects. Look at them, they don't understand.
Everyone's fight.
I'll tell you why. Earlier, he was saying that, oh, you go to the thing that was before and da. But if Catholics came before you...
The Jews came before that.
Yeah.
So if we go by age, I mean, what do
So
you
you're
go
saying
back to?
Protestantism is the true Christianity?
Not all Protestants believe the same thing.
Yeah.
All I'm
So
saying is you believe in the Bible.
as long as you believe in the Bible as the Word of God, as long as you submit yourself to Christ as your Lord and Savior,
Bible, that's the key.
it doesn't matter if you're Orthodox, Catholic, or whatever the case might be. Hey, calm down, man. Calm down.
Either way, you're saying there's an intermediary, which is God, between you and God.
We don't believe in an intermediary.
What are you saying?
That God's the only way to God.
When you call to pray and you say Jesus,
Yep.
Yes.
you're not saying God's name.
We are.
We believe He's God. So when you come,
right here.
You're naming somebody who prayed to another God.
That's your belief. We believe He's
No,
God.
that's fact. So did Jesus not pray?
He did. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. To the Father. And I can show you the Father praying to Him.
I can pray to God. I can
Yep.
pray to God the Father.
Here.
To God the Son. I can pray to the Holy
How
Spirit.
many is God? One.
One God, three persons. Here you go. There is. So, truly, I say to you, whoever believes in me will also do the works that I do. And greater works than these will he do, because I am going to the Father. Whoever asks in my name, this I will do, that the Father may be glorified in the Son. So if you ask me anything in my name, I will do it. But it's God.
Now, here's the other thing.
There you go.
He's 100% man and 100% God, which you don't believe either. Because you're like, how can that be?
What I'm focusing is on one point.
Understood, but if he's 100% man and 100% God, then we're praying to
I
God.
haven't mentioned that. I'm focused on one point. The one point I'm saying is, pagans put intermediaries between them and God.
We don't believe in an intermediary.
He just said, come to me and
But
I'll
that
come to you.
intermediary is God Himself.
God is one.
I understand that.
God isn't one
You
and
know
a
Christians
son.
believe that Jesus is God. You know that.
Yes, but
yes or no?
But I know that, but
Okay,
I'm telling
so
you.
what is
Okay,
the
let's just
argument?
use logic then. I'll tell you logic. How can,
Logic, huh? Okay.
Logically, how can a man be God? How can a creation be God?
By
How
God
can
taking
somebody who
on
is
the
born
flesh
be God?
of a man. That's
how
not
can
how.
somebody who prays be God?
I'll answer that
How
question
can
with a
somebody
question.
who has-
Okay, I'll answer that question with a
lived
question.
and is gonna die?
How can God create?
What do you mean? God creates.
How?
He creates.
How did He do it?
He creates.
How?
Describe the process, please.
What do you mean?
Describe the
How do
process
you
of creation.
Explain how creation
Yeah.
He says he just creates.
Okay, but then in that same way, he just can.
Yeah.
I mean,
No. He just can become a man.
He can
He just
become a
can.
man.
Yeah, he just can.
Okay, but is that God?
Yep.
doesn't the Quran say something about God, Allah can become something or be something?
Well, the Quran says a few interesting things. From my take on it, Surah 43, verse 61, it says that if Allah had a son, that you would have to worship him. So implying that they are affirming Christian theology
says God
that
doesn't have a son.
the only son, but if he did, you have to, right? Therefore, if God does have a son, if Christians hold and have held for half a millennia before Islam ever came that he had a son, therefore we have a right to worship him. And to make it even better, in Surah 355, it tells us that the followers of Isa will be superior to everybody else until the day of judgment. So who are the followers of Isa? We are.
Yeah, you don't follow Isa because Isa never.
But you guys don't either, because
I follow
technically.
Isa because Isa prays.
Yeah, but
And we pray.
It-
He prays to Allah, we pray to Allah.
okay, but if you follow Isa, you don't know anything about him, unfortunately. You can't talk to me about Isa for 2 minutes. You can't.
I can't.
There's literally 7 things about him in the Quran. That's about it, or 12 things I think. That's about it.
There's Surah Maryam.
Yeah, but there's no lessons. There's no
Surah
teachings.
Maryam, Surah Ma'idah, Surah Al
But
Imran.
there's none of him talking extensively. Nothing.
It does, it's teaching.
What did he teach? Tell me one thing. What one thing?
What do you mean?
Tell me one thing Christ taught from the Quran. One thing.
إنني أنا الله أتاني الكتاب.
That's not a lesson. That's not a lesson.
جعلني مبارك أينما
That's not a lesson.
ووحاني بالصلاة والزكاة ما دمت حيا.
No, no,
He commanded me with prayer and zakah as long as I'm alive. That is a lesson.
That's not a lesson.
Prayer and zakah.
That's not a proclamation. That's not a lesson.
So Jesus told to pray. It's time to pray.
Okay.
I'm going to follow Jesus.
What I mean by this? Okay, that's fine. You can come back on it later.